Gears of War as a series is a lot of things. It was a trendsetter for third-person, cover-based shooters. It was a big, kind of grand stage game for the 7th generation and the Xbox 360 especially. It has a great atmosphere and something that was kind of normal for the time with games like Mass Effect and Dead Space, but just like the gritty horror atmosphere mixed with that hint of like diesel punk, and everything was just right. And if you talk to anybody that is a hardcore fan of Gears, you will know that there's a lot of passion and a lot of blood spilt over the topic of which game in the series is the best.
Oh fuck no.
I think the most common answer is Gears of War 2 or 3, sometimes even the beta for Gears 3 if you want to get real spicy with it, considering that Gears 4 and 5 didn't do so well and it's not really in a great shape right now as a series. It's probably easy to see why people look back at the older games and they just sort of turn on the nostalgia gears and they just start nostalgia gears. Get it? I'll stop.
Yeah, Tinker Toes, because you know bladder control ain't your strong suit. Once. It happened once, okay?
But they go back to an older time when they remember when the games were at their peak, which, like, it's not to say that the newer games are bad, they're just... it's a different type of quality. My task today is to try and organize, or at least put out my opinion-based... I say objective and subjective a few times in this. I'm going to say it more as the video continues, but the goal today is to basically get out there what I think the most appropriate ranking for the Gears of War games is, because I feel a lot of these games get shit on for no reason and others probably get away with too much. Now I'm going to start with what I consider to be the most objective view of the games that I think are rated on a scale of having a good story and just being a good game overall, like being less buggy, having more to do in it, being more fleshed out, stuff like that. And I think that ranking would look like this. Take it in. It's probably already going to piss off a few of you, but this is what I consider to be the most objective way of ranking the games. I put Gears of War 3 at the top because it is just kind of everything you could want from a Gears of War game is there. It has the good horde mode, it has good verses for the time. I'll get into more of that later. It's got a full campaign with a full secondary campaign that's also pretty damn fucking good and better than some of the other full campaigns in the series. It's got a whole lot from the war journal and things like that, and just tiny little details and things that make the game just perfect. Almost. As well as probably the best soundtrack of all the games. I put Gears Tactics and Ultimate Edition just below them because I think Gears Tactics does a lot. It's pretty solid for an XCOM clone that's just basically Gears of War skinned. It's really intuitive to play on console, and it's one of the few games in the last 2 or so years that I've really just delved really deep into. Less so the fact that it's a Gears game, that helps, but it's also just a really striking game with a solid story, and it introduces some new characters to the Gears of War universe that I think are really good, one of which is one of my favorite Gears characters now. And I put Ultimate Edition up there too. It's really weird. I kind of consider these separate games because they're just so different, and it's hard to tell if you just play them, but if you know Gears to the core, it makes more sense. At least to me it does. I put Ultimate Edition higher just because it's cleaner, it's got a little bit more to it, and it's just sort of like it's a really good remake of an already pretty good game, and I think the remake just sort of elevates it a little bit. It's kind of like Halo Infinite, I think, where Halo Infinite is a good game and it's got a lot going for it. There's just not a lot to it. And that's kind of how I feel about Gears of War Ultimate Edition. This is where I'm going to start to piss people off. I put Gears 5, 4, 2, and the original in mid. This is probably a little bit of personal things coming in here, because, like I said, most people will put Gears of War 2 at the top. I didn't. I think Gears of War 2 has the story. The story's pretty solid, and that's really it. I don't find Gears 2 all that enjoyable to play. I didn't really find it all that enjoyable to play back then, even when I was playing Gears 3 and Gears 2 commonly. I would almost always pick Gears 3. And the gameplay is changed from the first Gears, and it's not quite as evolved as Gears 3 or later games for me to think that it stands solely on its own. With Gears 4 and 5, they always kind of fall into the same boat for me, where it's like, they're not necessarily the worst, but they're not really the best, and it kind of depends on what day I play them. If I'm having a really good time with Gears 5 is one of my favorite Gears games. If I try playing free-for-all, I absolutely fucking hate it. And the same mostly goes for Gears 4. Like, I had a lot of fun with the multiplayer. The new Horde system was really great, and then other things like the campaign are just lacking. And it's like, it's not bad, but it's just there. These last two, I think, is probably more self-explanatory. Judgment, bad. Judgment was horrible, and it's still pretty buggy if you try to play it today. I played a match with a buddy of mine a few weeks ago, and the entire time it was just the two of us, and then the rest of the lobby was bots, and it was still bugging the fuck out.
Well, that's one thing we agree on. Hey, look up there. Splat.
So just like from a game standard, it's also, I think, the least fun. It feels the most arcadey, and it feels like it was scrapped together. And considering that it came out like a year and a half after Gears 3, it's easy to see why. It's basically just a Gears 3 expansion, and I think if they did that like as like another DLC a la ROM Shadow, it probably wouldn't get as much hate. But the fact that it's considered like an actual entry in the franchise, it kind of gets stuck with like that God of War Ascension style status. And Gears Pop, well, it's a pay-to-win Clash Royale clone, so I don't really know what to do with it other than the fact that it's not even active anymore. It was so kind of dead that they just killed it. They said, no, we're not doing this, and they got rid of that shit. So it's bad. It's bad. It was fun. It was cool to have like a Gears of War mobile thing when I was in high school, but now I have a full-time job and I have money to buy proper things, so I don't play mobile games anymore.
You'll want to see this.
This better not be a shopping list.
And that's basically how I see the games if I'm trying to look at them more objectively and not how I personally feel about them. Because if we get to how I personally feel about games, we get this. Which is not too dissimilar from the last list, which probably might hurt me when I say I'm trying to look at it objectively, but when I think back to all the times that I've played Gears and the time I spent playing them, this is basically how it comes up in my head. And I think the fact that I haven't played Gears 4 since 2019, 2020, like the early 2020, late 2019 when Gears 5 came out, I haven't really played it since then at all. And it's still my most played game on Xbox by like 10 days worth of in-game time.
Come with us. We can get you some help.
No, it's too late! Leave me alone!
Still. Which goes to show just how much I played this game and how much I actually enjoyed it for a long time, even if it was messy at some bits. And right below that is Gears 5. This is more so just me not enjoying old game gank. Old games are objectively worse to play. Not like story-wise and stuff. Some old games are still fucking fantastic story-wise and everything. I'm not talking about that kind of shit. I'm talking about if I pick it up and I try to wall bounce, say in Gears, I will have a much simpler and easier time playing Gears 4 or Gears 5 and trying to do that than trying to do it in any of the older Gears of War games. Partially because they're not built for it, and also because they're just not as smooth. They're a lot more rigid, and they're a lot more slower. Like, it kind of forces you to take a slower pop and shoot style of gameplay, versus 4 and 5 give you that freedom to wall bounce and Nasher duel and a lot of the stuff that I find to be more fun in a Gears of War game. And I think as of right now, like even recently, I've gotten back into playing Gears 5 with the Horde system and classes, and right now, on this day of February 4th, 2023, I would probably prefer to load up Gears 5 over any other Gears game, maybe excluding 3.
Everywhere you go, everything you do, it's always nothing but death, pain, and miseries. You piece of shit motherfucker.
Just because I have more fun with it. I have more fun in Horde. I have more fun in Versus. The story has more to be desired, but when I'm saying the games I enjoy subjectively, I'm talking less about which games I think are the best and the ones I have fun with. Gears 3, self-explanatory, like I said when I was talking about 5. If I didn't have 5 to go to, I would probably pick Gears 3 to play just for funs. And Tactics, right below it. Tactics, I just have fun loading it up and going into the fucking customization. That shit is my goddamn crack for video games. Customization will have me there for fucking hours if it's really good, and Tactics has a damn good unit customizer. Like, setting up your squad, giving them separate things. I get in my own head and I start doing that thing that I do a lot in Fallout and stuff, where I build a squad, I build their gear, and I kind of make them into, like right now I currently have 3 or 4 different squads of 4 set up, because you can have up to 19 units in the jacked mode in Gears Tactics, excluding the story characters, of course. So I have like a squad of all Onyx guards, I have a squad of all old guard, whatever, they're wearing like the old school Delta squad style armor. And I have a squad of like all helmeted Carmines. They're not Carmines, they just, they're wearing the classic COG helmet, and they all kind of have a theme that blends together, and doing shit like that is crack cocaine for me, and I fucking love it. I enjoy it so fucking much, and that single reason, even without the gameplay, even without the characters, even without the story, just that one thing, that awesome fucking customization, and the fact that it is Gears of War, puts Tactics ahead of a lot of the games for me, and that's, that's just my personal opinion. And my kind of thoughts behind the rest of the games is sort of the same I was talking about before, where they're all kind of slower and clunky, and they're not as fun for me to play. I have a lot of fun doing duels in Ultimate Edition, and that's about right where it ends, because I would much rather load up Gears 4, 5, Tactics, or 3 over any of the rest of these. And Pop is, well, I can't play it anymore, so it's bad. It's bad by default, because fuck you, Gears Pop. At least now. When it came out, maybe, but now, fuck you, Gears Pop. And the last way I want to bring up to kind of look at the games is not objectively, it's not subjectively, it's not all this other bullshit, it's on a spectrum, because I think when you have games like this where they're kind of like neck and neck, and some are good but they have bad qualities, and some are bad but they have good qualities, I want to look at them on a chart. Instead of doing A, B, C, D, E, good to bad, what if we put them sprawled out and kind of measured them that way? And I think it kind of looks like this. Like that. I said what I said. So what we have here is a list of the Gears games from boring to fun and from good to bad. From my it's still kind of subjective objectively, but it's not as harsh, I think. We get, starting from left to right, top to bottom, Ultimate Edition is a very pretty game. It's a good game. It doesn't have all that many bugs or anything, as long as you play it the way it's intended to be played. If you stick to that and do nothing else, it's not that bad. It's just boring as piss, because like I said with Halo Infinite, there's not really anything to do unless you have a squad of friends that are going to hop on and play with you. Or if you just want to play the campaign for the 50th time again. I don't know why you do that. I've already beaten the campaign on Insane, so that game has nothing else to offer me. Kind of right below it, because it's not to the same quality. I think Gears 1 is still kind of boring, but it's kind of in the middle. It's not bad, and I kind of have to look at it a little bit different because it is over fucking 16 years old now. Damn, that's wild. But it's an old game, and I'd let some things slide, but it's not necessarily bad. It's just still, it doesn't have a whole lot to it. There's no reason for me to load up Gears 1, really ever. Gears Pop is the only one that fits into boring and bad, because it's just a Clash Royale clone, and it's not very... From what I remember playing it, it was not too bad for a while, and after you get to a certain point, you have to spend $600,000 to stay competitive, or you delete the game, which is what I did. I deleted the game, and then the servers died a few weeks after that. Right down the center of the spectrum as far as being fun or boring, it kind of depends on what you're doing and stuff like that. Like if I'm playing through the Gears 2 campaign, I find the campaign quite enjoyable. The story is the best shining part of that. The fuck am I saying? It's the best shining example coming from that game. I think that makes more sense. Gears 2 is a bad game for me in the way that like the changes made to the game and the systems of the game are fundamentally worse than changes that are made going forward, say into like Gears 3. It's slower and it feels clunkier than Gears 1 somehow. But the game is enjoyable under the right circumstances. Like if you're playing with friends, or like I said, just playing the campaign still holds pretty strong. And Gears 3 is a lot more fun and enjoyable, and it's better. I would probably why I put these two right on top of the other, because if you gave me the choice, I would choose Gears 3 because it's just cleaner and it's got more to it. But they're probably about the same on the fun scale for me. Over in the top corner is Tactics, because I think I have a lot of fun with it, and I think it is a better game because it's just well made, you know?
I almost admire that.
The missions are all not too hard, but they're like the right amount of challenging for a strategy game, and all that kind of shit that it's got going for it makes Tactics feel, every time I jump into it, I have to put aside a day, because with Tactics I have so much fun with it that I'll either get onto it to just play around with the customization, or I'll sit down for 8 hours straight and just play missions non-stop, building a little story and repertoire in my head as I'm going, because it's so good. And I wish Splash Damage, the company that made Tactics, not making, they're done, I wish they would make a sequel, because it was a good fucking game, and with a little bit more to it, it could be probably the best Gears of War game ever. And it doesn't even have anything going for it. It doesn't have anything in it that's makes it a Gears of War game outside of the world and the setting.
Oh, how was it for you?
Are we done here? Come on, Baird, we got a job to do.
But a Gears Tactics 2 would fucking rock. And I really wish they weren't making that goddamn Transformers game, because I don't give a fuck about Optimus and his goddamn Decepticon problem. I care about this shit. Probably far too much. These last three are harder to place. I think Gears 4 and 5 I both have a lot of fun with, but I think this is more so from when it launched as to where it is now, but I think Gears 5 is worse of a game quality-wise as 4. It's way different now, and that kind of skews the results, but Gears 5 was such a hot mess when it came out, and it was just full of bugs. I remember I tried playing the campaign through on Insane at least a month after it came out, and I gave up because I was having too many issues with bugs and shit that it wasn't worth the headache. In Gears Judgment, I mean, I can have fun with it because it's so fucking stupid and it's kind of in the vein of Gears 3. But it's also a hot pile of fucking dog shit. But, you know, even then, it's still quite enjoyable. I was looking through my notes of what I had originally written down, because I script this shit out. I just don't follow it. And apparently I compared Gears 5 to pizza, which is accurate, you know, and that's it. Of course, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter as much what I say. I'm here with 20 subscribers on the YouTube channel talking about Gears of War, which I could do for hours on end. I just kind of got a little tip that I still enjoy the game sometimes, and I wanted to make this to kind of explain how I feel about Gears games, because even when I talk to some hardcore fans and I talk about this kind of shit or talk about the games in this way, it catches people off guard. And I think when people ask for a Marcus Phoenix collection, they've got like the fucking full 3-inch thick rose tinted glasses and they're just all in nostalgia mode, and it's like, those games weren't as good as we remember them, I don't think. They had good atmosphere and good story and good music, but like as a video game I would sit down and play, no. Don't let me tell you which Gears game is your favorite. This is all mine. If you have a different favorite one, if you think Gears 2 should be at the top of every single one of these, you think it's flawless, or even if you're that one demented soul that thinks Judgment should be up at the fucking Onyx tier, go kill yourself. But also, that's okay. Like, you're allowed to have that. I don't think one person or any journalist or anything like that should tell you where your $60 should be spent. If you are going to go for it, you're going to go for it. That's just how it is. When the Gears Netflix stuff comes out, I'm going to watch it day one, even if it's fucking horrendous. I will watch the entire thing, and I might cry, but I'm still going to watch it. And like when Gears 6 comes out, I will spend the $100 for the gold edition or whatever they do, just because. Even if the game looks worse, I will probably still end up spending the money on it because I just enjoy Gears, and having a Gears of War game it's a constant in my life that I don't think is going away anytime soon. And other than that, that's it from me. The last note I really have is that this is the most accurate listing of the Gears of War games to date, and you cannot convince me otherwise. Fuck you. That was really mean, okay? Thank you for watching the video. Do the things. But, that being said, my opinion is correct and yours is wrong, so I don't know what to tell you from there. That's kind of on you, man. You're the one who's wrong. I'm not. Why are you still here? It's done. The video's over. Fucking go home. Why are you here? Why are you watching this? Get the fuck out of my sight. But Gears Judgment is still actually kind of pretty fun. I'm serious.